As the sun rose on January 1st, 2024, a palpable tension filled the air. This year was poised to become a pivotal chapter in the annals of crime history, with stories that would seep into the consciousness of millions around the globe. True crime, once a niche genre, had exploded into a cultural phenomenon, captivating audiences with its blend of horror, intrigue, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The media landscape was dominated by key figures such as investigative journalist Sarah Collins, whose hard-hitting reports brought raw truths to the forefront. "It's our duty to give a voice to the voiceless," Sarah often stated in interviews, her fierce dedication resonating with viewers. Alongside her was Mark Ramirez, a charismatic host of a popular crime podcast that dissected cases with a blend of humor and gravity, drawing in listeners who craved both entertainment and enlightenment. This year, however, would not just be defined by the stories told, but by the society that consumed them. Communities across the nation braced themselves, gripped by a newfound anxiety. Neighborhood watch programs saw a resurgence as fear crept into the streets. "It's not just about safety, it's about feeling safe," remarked local resident Linda Harper during a community meeting, her voice trembling as she recounted the recent crime wave that had shaken their town. With each sensational headline, the public became increasingly vigilant. Social media buzzed with speculation and outrage, creating a digital courtroom where opinions were formed and judgments passed. "The line between fascination and fear is thin," Sarah noted during a panel discussion, her gaze sweeping over a crowd eager for answers. "We must remember that behind every crime is a person, a victim, a family forever changed." The backdrop of 2024 was painted with a mix of sensationalism and sorrow. It was a year that would reveal not just the darkness lurking in society, but also the resilience of communities striving to heal amidst the chaos. The stories that unfolded would challenge perceptions, spark conversations, and ultimately leave an indelible mark on the collective psyche. As the days of January unfurled, the world found itself transfixed by a series of true crime cases that would etch their stories into the fabric of 2024. Each case, distinct in its horror, revealed the frailties of humanity and the complexities of justice. The first case that gripped the nation was the chilling murder of college student Emily Turner. On a frigid night, her lifeless body was discovered in a secluded park, leaving the community in shock. The investigation commenced with urgency, led by seasoned detective James Miller, who recalled the initial scene vividly. "It was heart-wrenching. You could feel the darkness surrounding that place, almost like it had swallowed her whole," he recounted, his voice steady yet tinged with emotion. As the detectives combed through evidence, they uncovered a series of unsettling clues. Emily's social media revealed troubling interactions that hinted at a stalker, igniting fear among her peers. "We never thought something like this could happen here," lamented her friend Sarah, tears welling in her eyes as she recalled the vibrant life Emily had led. The second case erupted into the public consciousness when a murder of a beloved local teacher, Mr. John Peterson, was sensationalized by the media. The community rallied in his memory, holding vigils that highlighted the profound impact he had on countless students. Mark Ramirez, the charismatic podcast host, took the opportunity to delve deeper into the story, framing it within a broader discussion about the safety of educators. "It's not just a crime. It's an assault on our trust in the system," he declared on air, sparking widespread outrage. However, the media frenzy had its pitfalls. As rumors swirled, a local man with a troubled past became a target for public scorn, despite a lack of evidence linking him to the crime. "This is the danger of speculation," Sarah pointed out during a heated debate. We must remember the impact of our words, as they can destroy lives just as swiftly as the crimes we report on. The community found itself torn between grief and the need for swift justice, highlighting the societal turmoil that true crime narratives often incite. Finally, the haunting story of the Rodriguez family emerged, forever altered by the loss of their daughter, 16-year-old Maria. Her disappearance sparked a nationwide search that captivated audiences. Maria's mother, Elena, became a symbol of resilience, tirelessly advocating for missing persons and speaking out about the systemic failures that often leave families searching for answers. "I won't stop until every child is found," she vowed during a press conference, her determination a beacon of hope amidst despair. Each of these cases, while distinct, wove a tapestry of fear, grief, and longing for justice. They serve not only as cautionary tales, but also as a mirror reflecting society's vulnerabilities. The emotional weight of these stories resonated deeply, reminding everyone that behind every headline lay a human being, one whose life had been irrevocably changed. As the investigations into the chilling murders unfolded, law enforcement agencies faced a myriad of challenges that tested their resolve and ingenuity. Detective James Miller, still haunted by the unresolved murder of Emily Turner, found himself grappling with the overwhelming pressure to deliver justice swiftly. "Every day that passes feels like a failure," he confessed during a late-night briefing with his team. "The longer this drags on, the more the community's faith in us wanes." The pressure was palpable, particularly with the media's relentless scrutiny. Each headline seemed to amplify public outrage, creating an environment where mistakes could prove costly. At a press conference, Miller reassured the public, "We are doing everything we can to bring Emily's murderer to justice. Every lead is being investigated thoroughly." But behind his composed exterior, he knew the stakes were high. The community's trust teetered precariously on the edge of despair. Meanwhile, forensic science emerged as a vital ally in the pursuit of justice. As the investigators collected evidence from the crime scene, forensic analysts meticulously examined every scrap of information. "We have to be meticulous," forensic specialist Lisa Wong emphasized, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Even the smallest detail can lead us to the truth." She worked tirelessly, analyzing DNA samples and fingerprints, hoping they would provide the breakthrough the case desperately needed. In the case of Mr. John Peterson, the media frenzy reached a fever pitch, complicating the investigation further. Mark Ramirez, the podcast host, continued to amplify public interest, often blurring the lines between informative discourse and sensationalism. "This isn't just about a crime. It's about who we are as a society," he declared during a live broadcast, igniting conversations about the systemic issues surrounding safety in schools. While his intentions were noble, his approach inadvertently pressured law enforcement to act decisively, leading to rushed conclusions that could jeopardize the integrity of the investigation. Amidst this chaos, the Rodriguez family's desperate search for their daughter Maria highlighted another dimension of the investigative process. Elena Rodriguez's tireless advocacy brought national attention to their plight, but it also painted a clear picture of the systemic failures that plagued missing persons cases. "There are no resources for families like mine," Elena lamented in an interview with a local news station. "We feel abandoned by the very system that should be helping us." Her words resonated with many, shining a light on the urgent need for reform in how missing persons cases are handled. As the investigations progressed, the detectives began to uncover unsettling truths. In Emily's case, they identified a suspect whose history was intertwined with stalking and harassment. "We wanted to catch him before he could hurt anyone else," Miller stated, his determination unwavering. Forensic evidence linked the suspect to the crime scene, providing a glimmer of hope that justice might soon be served. Yet, despite these advancements, the shadows of doubt loomed large. The public's expectation for swift justice often clashed with the reality of the investigative process. "People think it's easy, that we can just connect the dots," Detective Miller said during a candid conversation with his team. "But the truth is, it's a complex web of human behavior, and we're just trying to navigate it." As the chapter of these investigations unfolded, the importance of transparency and community trust became increasingly apparent. The implications of these cases reached far beyond individual tragedies. They sparked conversations about criminal justice reform and the need for systemic changes that could prevent future crimes. The journey for justice was fraught with challenges, but through the dedication of law enforcement, the bravery of families like the Rodriguez's, and the tireless efforts of advocates like Elena, a new narrative began to emerge, one that sought not only to solve crimes but to heal communities. In the aftermath of the harrowing events that shook the community, the emotional and psychological toll on the victims, their families, and the wider society began to surface. The specter of loss and trauma lingered in the air, leaving invisible scars that would take years to heal. To better understand this phenomenon, I spoke with Dr. Sarah Jenkins, a clinical psychologist who specializes in trauma recovery. The impact of violent crime extends far beyond the immediate victims, Dr. Jenkins explained during our interview. Families are not just mourning. They're grappling with a profound sense of vulnerability. They feel exposed, and the world suddenly seems a much darker place. Her insights illuminated the ripple effects of crime, where entire communities found themselves enveloped in a shared trauma. As we delved deeper, it became clear that the fascination with true crime stories in popular culture often served as both a coping mechanism and a source of discomfort. People are drawn to these stories because they want to make sense of the chaos, Dr. Jenkins noted. However, this also means they're constantly reminded of their own fears. Meanwhile, the Rodriguez family's ongoing struggle for justice encapsulated the emotional burden carried by those directly affected. Elena Rodriguez, still fervent in her advocacy, spoke candidly about her family's experience. "Every day is a reminder of what we've lost. It feels as though we're living in a nightmare that won't end," she confided during an emotional moment at a community rally. Her words resonated deeply with others who had experienced similar losses, highlighting a collective yearning for healing. To further explore the psychological dynamics at play, I attended a gathering of true crime enthusiasts, where discussions ranged from popular podcasts to infamous cases. The atmosphere was charged with excitement, yet beneath the surface, I sensed an undercurrent of anxiety. "It's like a morbid curiosity," one attendee, Tom, admitted. "We're fascinated by the darkness, but I sometimes wonder if it reflects our own fears about safety." This duality of attraction and repulsion seemed to characterize many true crime aficionados. Psychologists have identified common traits among these enthusiasts, including a heightened sense of curiosity and a desire for understanding. Engaging with these stories can provide a false sense of control, Dr. Jenkins explained. By analyzing crime, people may feel they can better protect themselves from becoming victims. As our conversation shifted back to the ongoing challenges faced by victims' families, the emotional weight of the situation became increasingly evident. The media often sensationalizes these stories, but they forget the human cost, Elena emphasized, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. "We're not just statistics. We're people with lives that were shattered. The scars left by crime, both seen and unseen, serve as a reminder of the complexities that surround these true crime narratives. The stories resonate deeply, not just for their shock value, but also for their ability to reflect our own vulnerabilities. As the community continued to navigate the aftermath, the need for empathy and understanding became paramount, fostering a dialogue that could pave the way for healing. In the face of such trauma, the call for compassion emerged as a crucial theme. The ongoing fascination with true crime, while sometimes troubling, can also serve as a vital tool for awareness and advocacy. By addressing the unseen scars of victims and their families, society can begin to heal, embracing a collective responsibility to support one another in the aftermath of tragedy. As the dust settled on the tumultuous events of 2024, the resonating echoes of unresolved questions and lingering mysteries loomed large in the minds of many. The cases that had captivated the nation left behind a complex legacy, one marked not only by fear, but also by a profound shift in societal perceptions of safety. The world felt different, as if the very fabric of trust within communities had been irrevocably altered. To explore these themes, I sought the expertise of Dr. Mark Thompson, a sociologist who has studied the impact of crime on community dynamics. Crime doesn't just affect the immediate victims. It ripples through the community, altering the way people interact and trust one another, he explained. When a high-profile case unfolds, it can create a pervasive sense of vulnerability that persists long after the headlines fade. His analysis highlighted how the fear stemming from these crimes often led to increased vigilance among community members, yet it also sowed seeds of distrust. During our conversation, Dr. Thompson noted a troubling trend. In many cases, communities become hyper-aware of potential threats, leading to a culture of suspicion. People begin to view their neighbors through a lens of fear rather than camaraderie. This shift, he argued, had profound implications for community cohesion. When fear dominates, it can erode the very trust that binds a community together. To illustrate this phenomenon, I spoke with Sarah, a mother from a neighborhood that had been deeply affected by one of the true crime cases. After the incident, I felt like I was living in a pressure cooker, she shared, her voice trembling slightly. Every noise outside made me jump. I was terrified for my children. The lingering fear had transformed her once vibrant community into a place where people hesitated to engage with one another, fostering isolation rather than connection. I remember standing in my front yard, watching my kids play, and thinking about all the things that could go wrong, Sarah continued. It was exhausting. I used to feel safe here, but now I feel like I'm constantly on edge. Her story exemplified the emotional burden carried by many who felt the weight of crime's legacy. As I delved deeper into the cultural implications of true crime narratives, I encountered another layer of complexity. The media's portrayal of these cases often exacerbated public fears, sensationalizing crime while neglecting the broader context. We're drawn to these stories because they tap into our deepest anxieties, Dr. Thompson observed. But this fascination can distort our understanding of crime and safety, leading to misguided perceptions of risk. I attended a community meeting where residents voiced their concerns about safety and the ongoing impact of the true crime cases. One elderly gentleman, Mr. Jenkins, spoke up, his voice shaking with emotion. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 30 years, and I never thought I would feel afraid to walk to the store, he lamented. Now, I feel like I have to look over my shoulder everywhere I go. His remarks echoed the sentiments of many, underscoring the pervasive sense of fear that had seeped into the fabric of daily life. As the discussions unfolded, it became evident that the legacy of these true crime stories was not merely about the crimes themselves, but about the societal shifts they instigated. People were grappling with their own vulnerabilities, seeking ways to reclaim a sense of safety amid uncertainty. "We need to talk about this," Sarah urged, her voice gaining strength. "We can't let fear define our lives. We need to come together as a community." The call for unity resonated with many, serving as a reminder that while crime may leave scars, it can also catalyze conversations about healing and resilience. As the community members shared their stories and fears, a collective determination began to take shape, a commitment to foster understanding and support in the face of adversity. In reflecting on the legacy of fear left by these cases, it became clear that while the path to healing would be long, the willingness to confront these challenges head-on would serve as a beacon of hope. Together, they could navigate the complexities of their shared experiences, transforming fear into a foundation for renewed trust and solidarity. As I moved from the discussions of fear and isolation that lingered in the aftermath of 2024's true crime cases, I found myself drawn to the burgeoning initiatives within communities aimed at healing and resilience. The haunting echoes of tragic events had spurred many to action, creating a tapestry of support woven from shared experiences and a collective desire for change. During a community meeting at the local library, I witnessed firsthand the power of open dialogue. Residents gathered, their faces a mix of apprehension and determination. One of the organizers, Lisa, a passionate advocate for community safety, began the meeting with a powerful statement. "We cannot let fear dictate how we live our lives. It's time to take back our streets and support one another." Her words sparked a wave of agreement among the attendees, who nodded in solidarity. "But how do we start?" a man in the back asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "It's easy to say we need to come together, but what does that even look like?" The question hung in the air, a daunting challenge that required exploration. Lisa responded with conviction. "We need to create safe spaces for conversation, just like this. We can establish neighborhood watch programs, organize community events, and collaborate with local law enforcement to rebuild trust." Her enthusiasm ignited a sense of possibility among the group, transforming apprehension into a shared vision for the future. As the conversation unfolded, stories emerged, stories of survival, of strength, and of determination. A young woman named Mia shared her experience of losing a friend to violence. "I felt so lost for so long, but I realized I wasn't alone. I started a support group for others who've faced similar losses, and it's been healing for us all," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "That's exactly what we need," another attendee chimed in. "Support groups can help us process our grief and find ways to advocate for change." The room buzzed with energy as ideas flowed, each suggestion building on the last, creating a foundation for healing rooted in community solidarity. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in the initiatives that were sprouting up across neighborhoods. I attended workshops where residents learned about conflict resolution and effective communication, skills that could empower them to engage in constructive dialogue about safety and justice. The enthusiasm was palpable as participants shared their hopes and fears, forging connections that transcended their individual experiences. At one workshop, a retired police officer named Officer Reynolds spoke about the importance of building bridges between law enforcement and the community. "We're all in this together," he emphasized. "We need to work side by side, not as adversaries, but as partners in ensuring safety." His perspective opened the door for honest conversations about the challenges both sides faced, fostering mutual understanding. I also encountered community art projects aimed at transforming public spaces. Murals painted by local artists depicted stories of resilience, hope, and unity, serving as visual reminders of the strength found in collaboration. Art has a way of healing that words sometimes can't capture. One artist told me, her eyes bright with passion. It brings people together and allows them to express their experiences in a way that promotes healing. As I reflected on these initiatives, it became evident that confronting the darkness of crime was not solely about addressing fear. It was about nurturing a culture of openness, support, and resilience. The willingness of individuals to engage in dialogue, to share their stories, and to seek understanding was a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity for healing. I left the community meetings and workshops feeling a renewed sense of hope. While the scars of the past were deep, the steps taken toward healing were equally profound. By confronting the darkness together, these communities were not only reclaiming their safety, but also fostering a sense of belonging that transcended fear. The journey ahead would be long, but through open dialogue and collective action, they were laying the groundwork for a brighter, more resilient future. As the echoes of 2024 faded into the annals of history, the lessons learned from the tumultuous events of a year remained fresh and vital. Society had been shaken to its core, yet from the ashes of despair rose a renewed sense of vigilance, empathy, and understanding. It was a year that taught us not only about the fragility of safety, but also about the strength found in community resilience. In reflecting on the 3 defining true crime cases of the year, it was clear that each story, while tragic, offered profound insights into the human experience. The victims were not just statistics. They were vibrant lives that had been abruptly extinguished, leaving behind families and communities grappling with loss. Their stories reminded us of the importance of empathy, the ability to step into another's shoes, to feel their pain, and to advocate for change. During a follow-up community forum, I witnessed the transformation of collective grief into actionable resolve. As residents gathered once more, the atmosphere was charged with a sense of purpose. Lisa, the advocate who had led the previous meeting, stood at the front, her voice steady and inspiring. "We've seen what happens when we turn a blind eye to crime," she began, her tone firm yet compassionate. "But we've also seen the power of coming together. It's time we ask ourselves, how can we ensure that our communities are safer for everyone?" The room fell silent, the question resonating deeply. "We need to be vigilant," a young man named David responded, his brow knotted in thought. "Not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors. If we see something, we should say something." His words sparked a ripple of agreement, each attendee reflecting on their role in fostering a safer environment. Another voice emerged, that of an older woman named Margaret, who had lived in the community for decades. "It's about understanding our neighbors, too," she added. "We need to build relationships to know who lives next door. When we create a strong network of support, we can protect one another." Her perspective highlighted the importance of connection amidst the backdrop of fear. As the discussion unfolded, it became evident that community involvement was crucial in preventing crime. I felt a surge of hope as participants brainstormed initiatives, from neighborhood watch programs to youth mentorship schemes. The energy in the room was infectious, a testament to the power of collective action. "Let's not wait for tragedy to strike again," Lisa urged, her eyes shining with conviction. "We can start small, organize meetups, create community newsletters, and invite local law enforcement to discuss safety strategies. Together, we can turn our fear into a proactive force for good." The room erupted in applause, and I could see a shift in the atmosphere. What had begun as a gathering marked by grief was transforming into a rallying point for change. The conversations that followed were filled with ideas, as attendees shared stories of their own experiences with crime and recovery, each narrative reinforcing the need for vigilance and empathy. In the days that followed, I took that energy into the community, joining in on neighborhood walks and safety workshops. The sense of solidarity was palpable. It was clear that the key takeaways from the past year were not merely lessons, but calls to action. As I reflected on these experiences, I realized that the true impact of 2024's events was not just in the tragedies themselves, but in how they prompted us to reevaluate our perceptions of safety and community. It became essential to encourage others to engage in similar dialogues, to reflect on their own roles in crime prevention. In the end, the challenges faced during that tumultuous year illuminated the path forward. We learned that empathy should guide our response to crime, that understanding our neighbors could enhance our safety, and that vigilance was not merely a state of mind, but a collective responsibility. Through these lessons, we could forge a future where safety was embraced not just as a right, but as a shared commitment. As we stand on the precipice of a new year, the events of 2024 linger in our collective memory, etched into the fabric of our society. The true crime stories that captivated and horrified us have not only highlighted the fragility of safety, but also underscored the importance of awareness and understanding in our daily lives. The victims of these cases, whose lives were cruelly cut short, deserve our remembrance not only as names and headlines, but as individuals whose stories call us to action. The media's portrayal of these tragedies has sparked a dialogue that extends beyond mere fascination with the macabre. True crime, once relegated to the fringes of entertainment, has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our communities, the justice system, and our own roles in fostering safety. As viewers, we have transformed from passive consumers of sensational stories into active participants in conversations about justice reform and community engagement. During a recent community meeting, I found myself seated beside Lisa, David, and Margaret once more, the same trio who had inspired so many in the wake of tragedy. This time, the atmosphere was charged with determination rather than despair. We can't just let these stories fade into obscurity, Lisa asserted, her voice steady. We have to advocate for change, not just for ourselves, but for the victims who can no longer speak for themselves. David nodded in agreement, his passion evident. It's about making sure that we learn from these cases, he emphasized. What happened in 2024 should compel us to look at the flaws in our justice system. We need to demand accountability and transparency from those in power. And it's also about understanding the broader implications. Margaret chimed in thoughtfully. These stories resonate with so many because they reflect our deepest fears about safety. But we can flip the narrative. We can use these experiences to build stronger communities where everyone feels secure. Her words hung in the air, a poignant reminder of the potential for positive change. The conversations that unfolded during that meeting were rich with insights and ideas. Participants shared how true crime stories had influenced their perceptions of safety and the criminal justice system. It was clear that awareness was more than just a passive state. It was an active engagement with the realities around us. As we reflected on the events of the year, it became evident that the relevance of true crime in modern media extends beyond entertainment. It serves as a catalyst for dialogue, awareness, and ultimately, reform. The narratives we consume can inspire us to question the status quo and push for a society where justice is not just an ideal, but a reality for all. The journey through 2024 has taught us invaluable lessons about empathy, vigilance, and the strength found in community. As we move forward, let us carry these lessons with us, ensuring that the memories of the victims live on through our actions. Let us advocate for justice reform, support one another, and foster open dialogues about safety and community resilience. In conclusion, the call for awareness is not merely a plea. It is a mandate for us all. We are tasked with remembering the lives lost, fighting for justice, and working toward the future where no one has to endure the pain of loss due to crime. Together, we can shape a culture that values safety, understanding, and mutual support. The year that shook us can also be the year that awakened us to our shared responsibility. Let us rise to that challenge and be the change we wish to see.